Happy holidays. Welcome to this special Old Colony Law briefing. Today we will make a list and check it twice. This is reviewing and updating your beneficiary designations, a holiday season estate planning exercise. I'm Claire Crowley, an estate planning attorney at Old Colony Law, licensed in Massachusetts and New Hampshire. Old Colony Law focuses on asset protection and estate planning exclusively. We have a flagship office in Hadley serving the Pioneer Valley and a satellite office in Amesbury serving the Merrimack River Valley. For more information on our services and to schedule a consultation, please visit oldcolonylaw.com. We are joined today by attorney CPA Ben Pelkowski of Old Colony Law. Hi, Ben. Happy holidays.
Hey there, Claire. Ho, ho, ho. How are you? Happy holidays and happy holidays to everybody out there. Um, yeah, no, this is good. We have a fun little exercise here today. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, we started doing these briefings earlier this year. We've been doing it for, about, 8, 9 months. We do these every 2 weeks. We just try to use this as an opportunity to address kind of common questions and issues we encounter with clients and talk through with our clients in our office. Current events, new legislation, just to kind of chime in and knowing that there's a lot of confusing. It's a confusing world. There's misinformation out there. We like to try to kind of help people navigate it all. And so today we have here, kind of like an exercise that we hope will help you and your attorney kind of streamline your estate planning. Help get some momentum and making sure that you get your estate plan as part of your New Year's resolution, perhaps, or if you already have one, this is still important. In fact, all of our clients, if you already have an estate plan, this is an important exercise to do probably annually or so to make sure everything is coordinated properly. And so we're going to share on, for those of you who are tuning in here, we're going to share on the screen here our handout here. And this is going to kind of walk through some scenarios. So I'll punt it over to you, Claire, to kind of walk through this sheet here.
Yeah, so just a high level overview here. So again, reviewing and updating beneficiary designations on financial accounts is an often overlooked aspect of estate planning. And those include your checking and savings accounts, retirement accounts, investment accounts. And oftentimes those accounts make up the majority of our estates. And not having designations or failing to coordinate those designations properly with the rest of your estate plan can lead to uh, issues with probate court, delays, unnecessary taxes, and loss of asset protection. So again, we hope this exercise will be useful for you in going in and analyzing the accounts that you have and who is named on those accounts as your beneficiaries. So we'll start off with example one here. So we have Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus are married with one child, Elf. Santa and Mrs. Claus are retired, but of course, Santa still maintains a workshop to keep busy. The Claus's goal is to have an estate plan that, number one, avoids probate, number two, protects Elf's inheritance, and number three, minimizes taxes. What beneficiary designations are advisable to ensure that Santa and Mrs. Claus's accounts are coordinated with their estate plan? All right, so let's take a look at those accounts and see what we have on the list. So it looks like we have here a household checking account as well as a savings account at Patriots Credit Union. The owners of both of those accounts are Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus, but it looks like here Elf is only named on the savings as a beneficiary on the savings account. It doesn't look like we have a beneficiary designation on that household checking account, which would mean that that account could be subject to probate if Mrs. Claus and Santa Claus don't end up putting Elf on that account as well.
Yeah. And of
Um,
course, as joint owners, if either Santa or Mrs. Claus die, then the surviving owner will still, of course, retain ownership. Our concern here would be, well, what happens if that surviving owner fails to make a beneficiary designee, or what happens if if Santa's sleigh crashes and Mrs. Claus is on board, right, and something happens to both of them at the same time. So that to your point, Claire, yeah, that would that unfortunately that count would land in probate court, which is typically something that at least our clients want to avoid.
yeah.
Um,
And we're
yeah,
also looking at a potential probate issue there, Ben, as well. It looks like with Santa Claus's his workshop checking his business account at Bruins Bank. Doesn't look like we have a beneficiary named on that account either.
yeah, good point there. And then sometimes if Santa's workshop was a corporation or was operating as as an LLC or something, maybe the situation would be different. But it looks like since this workshop is under Santa's name, it's part of him, right? Legally speaking, and this would kind of end up this would end up in probate court. That would be an unfortunate result, yeah, because especially this time of year, right? Um, the workshop probably needs access to the funds, right? Depending on, what the reindeer's needs are, what the workshop schedule is to keep the lights on and all that.
Busy
And
time of
so,
year. Yeah.
right. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
So just from a high level overview, so Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus are looking to avoid probate. So those are the two things that stand out. The two holes that really stand out to me are those missing beneficiaries on the household checking and the workshop checking accounts.
yeah.
Just a note as well. So we do have ELF named on the savings account. We did discuss potentially adding naming ELF as beneficiary on that household checking account. Just a note on that, if we're looking to protect Elf's inheritance, which it appears that Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus are looking to do, naming a child just outright on a beneficiary designation can undo trust inheritance planning that you have set up for your child. That's because that account would bypass any sort of estate planning documents that you have and go right to ELF rather than ELF's trust. So if you do have a trust set up for your child, you're going to want to make sure that you're naming the trust on those beneficiary designation forms and not your child themselves.
Yeah, that was a very good point, Claire. Yeah, I mean, and you could see how accordingly, how if you fill out your beneficiary designation documents at your financial institution incorrectly, it could have unintended consequences. I mean, if you have a substantial portion of your wealth tied up in one particular account, and that designation is not made proper, then you're undermining that entire estate plan potentially. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's look at so we looked at probate, we looked at protecting Elf's inheritance. Um, Ben, do you want to walk us through Santa's and Mrs. Claus's their retirement accounts and what we should be looking at there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So again, we've addressed a probate item. Again, we want to make sure there's someone there in the event um, owners pass away. We want to make sure that there's a designation to avoid probate, but that's only part of the picture. We want to protect the inheritance for Elf. Okay. So we don't know exactly what's going on with Elf, right? Is he a minor child? Is that why we need protection, right? We don't want, we don't want a 10-year-old to inherit substantial assets, of course. Sometimes we don't want an adult child to either. A very common scenario in our office is that our clients are concerned that their child's spouse will end up with some or all of their child's inheritance in a future divorce. And so there's a way we can plan against that with some trust planning. Okay. But when doing that, we don't, let's say Elf is the child for whom we want to protect their inheritance. We don't want to name Elf as the beneficiary. Okay. We want to name that trust for Elf. Okay. So that's going to be very important when you're looking at these retirement accounts. When you're dealing with trusts and retirement accounts, there's legal nuance that needs to be taken care of there, in order to make sure that you don't have unintended tax consequences. Because anytime during your lifetime, when you take a withdrawal from your IRA or 401k, that's going to be taxable. Okay. It's also going to be taxable to your beneficiaries. And we need that trust framework to help play some tax defense there. Okay. And so accordingly, of course, Mr. and Mrs. Claus are going to want to name each other on their retirement accounts, but to the extent they're also considering ELF, and there's some trust planning for ELF, or for some spousal marital planning, we're going to want to make sure that their trusts are coordinated properly with their retirement accounts, and you're accomplishing that through a beneficiary designation.
Yep. And so now let's look at that brokerage account, right? So it looks like Santa has a brokerage account owned by his revocable trust. So that's good. That means that that brokerage account's going to avoid probate. It does provide Santa Claus with some incapacity planning, so his trustees could step into his shoes. I know those are big shoes to fill, but they can step into Santa Claus's shoes and handle the assets within that brokerage account if Santa were to be incapacitated. And that by naming the revocable trust, again, you are capturing any inheritance planning that has been done for ELF, potentially capturing that inheritance planning.
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah. Yeah, and then
Oh,
the beauty of that is that you don't necessarily always need a beneficiary designee here, because your beneficiary planning is done inside the trust, right? And so
exactly.
that it's kind of like a Lego. It all just kind of fits together.
Exactly. So, okay, so same facts. We're going to be looking at this list again, but in this example, Santa is now
Cover your ears if you have children at home.
yes, Santa ate too many cookies and he went out on his sleigh and had a horrible accident. And now we are counseling Mrs. Claus on her accounts and what beneficiary designation should look like. So we look at this household checking account now at Patriots Credit Union. Since Santa has passed, Mrs. Claus is now the sole owner of that account. Again, Mrs. Claus is going to need to name potentially Elf there as a beneficiary in that account. We're looking at the savings account. Again, Mrs. Claus is now the sole owner of that account upon Santa's passing. And we do have Elf name there as the beneficiary in that account.
Yeah, and then
Okay,
again, just to kind of repeat perhaps our point from before, a separate analysis needs to be done to make sure whether do we want to name Elf or Elf's trust, and then that's going to be dictated by what kind of planning we're constructing.
like, okay, so I'm seeing here's the big issue. So Santa has passed. Santa did not update his beneficiary designation form for his workshop checking account at Bruins Bank. So now we're looking at the assets within that account being subject to probate. So we're going to have a probate issue there.
Yeah, and that
To,
potentially could, again, that could impact the operations of the workshop. If that's where they keep all their money, they're potentially going to need, some form of court intervention there to gain access to that account. And uh, this is a bad time of year to slow down operations in this type of business.
it's true. It is true. Um, um, and the IRA. So let's look at that IRA. So Santa has passed. So Mrs. Claus on her IRA, she's going to need to update that beneficiary. Otherwise, if something happens to her as well before that happens, that account could be subject to probate.
Yep.
Um, the 401k upon Santa's death. So Santa was the owner of the 401k. Those assets have passed now to Mrs. Claus because Santa had updated his beneficiary designation form. So Mrs. Claus now has those assets. So that went out, would not be subject to probate, would go right to the surviving spouse. And the brokerage account would pass upon Santa's passing in accordance with the terms of that trust.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. And then we have this third example. I don't think we'll have to walk through all this, but we just want to articulate the point here that circumstances change, right? Same facts as above, except Santa Claus and Mrs. Claus are now divorced. Under Massachusetts law, this typically means that uh, you know, the named beneficiary, the divorced beneficiary is treated as being deceased. But um, you know, what if the financial institution doesn't know about the divorce, right?
Right.
That's something that can come up. So don't just rely on the law. Just be proactive on all this, folks. Is a big takeaway. We That's why we say check it twice, check it three times, check it every year, right? The more often, the better. One thing that does kind of come up that I've heard of coming up in the past, not personally, but something that I get paranoid about is you hear about all these bank mergers that happen, and like what happens when bank A merges with B, and then bank B's files go missing, things slip through the cracks, and like there's like an IT merger or something like that, and so you know you, you never know. There could be things beyond your control. There's humans on the other side of this. There's technology that can malfunction, and so just at least once a year, it's important to make sure these are up to date.
Yeah, and we hope you find that exercise valuable. And yeah, happy holidays to all of you. And we hope you join us for our next briefing.
Right. Thanks very much, everyone. Ho ho ho.